Are you working on your next project or app for education and you find yourself trying to choose between different software platforms and none of them feels exactly right? Well, oftentimes what we see with our education clients is that that's because the software is very niche specific. It's really good at some things in education, but anytime you want to tailor that application so it meets the needs of your organization, that's where things get a little bit tricky. Hi, I'm Dan Lehman from automationhelpers.com, and we're a partner of Knack. Knack is a great solution that's a no-code application that allows you to build the apps that you want the way that you want without having to sacrifice that flexibility. You can get started with Knack for free by clicking the link in the description below. Now, I myself, before I switched into technology, actually used to be a public educator, and so we had so many different use cases that we'd always be trying to accomplish with technology. The problem, of course, being that as we have all of these different use cases and find new software applications, those costs keep going up. Well, what if we could build a lot of these applications using a single technology stack? So some example use cases that you might use on Knack would be building a learning management system or managing your grant processes so that you can put out grants and get them accepted. Being able to have class or student directories. Maybe you want to manage different events that are happening on campus as well. Being able to create all that information within a single space. Progress tracking of students or even tracking professional development for your educators. Lots of different use cases why you might choose to use Knack. One of the use cases we're going to dig into a little bit more today is around grant management. And that's one of the reasons that Louisiana State University chose Knack to be able to better manage their grant processes. So Louisiana State has a Center of Research Excellence within their Human Sciences and Education department. And within that college, what they found is that we've got all of these different spreadsheets that we're using to manage grants. So if we have 50 different grants, we have 50 different spreadsheets to manage this. And then we're trying to manage all the different communication over email. And that information is easy to get lost. So with Knack, they found they were able to get rid of all of these spreadsheets, all the extra files, put it in one unified application so that they could manage different roles and different processes within a single web application. What they found by eliminating these additional applications was they could spend more time focusing on actually serving their communities than on focusing on the technology. And they found it was simply easier to use. Now they can focus more on making small incremental changes instead of having to rebuild their application process every time. So let's get started and see what this process looks like on the back end of Knack. So once you've logged in for the first time, you're going to see this dashboard area where you can build your own apps. From here, we can click to create a new app, and you could start from scratch, but most of the time, I really like getting started with a sample app. Here's where we can search for grants management and click on that, and this will spin up our new application. From within our application, we can see that we have a variety of tables. This is in my data section. Now, each table has a specific purpose that it's fulfilling. So for example, we can track our different applications that we have for our various grant programs. We can track the projects. What projects are we attempting to build with the funds that we're receiving from these grants? We can see our transactions. What's the money that's actually going in and out so that we can do financial reporting? What programs and grants are we actually tracking? Then we can also see any application notes or documents that we want to track along with the process. Now in this screen, we're just tracking the fields of information, all of those little data points that we want to track for that table. This isn't what it's going to actually look like to our end users. And at any point, we can add our own custom fields, and we have lots of different options to choose from. This again is what makes Knack so flexible. We're not locked into this specific structure of a given application. Instead, we can tailor this to suit the needs of our audience. If you're coming over from an existing application, then you might want to click on the records and you can import the records from a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet that you have that you're pulling from another system. Tasks give us the ability to create our own custom automations based on the data that we receive. So as we're tracking these applications, maybe when a new application comes in, we want to have an alert or an email that fires off so that we're aware every time that that changes. And so we can create this to automatically say, hey, when there is this new application, let's go ahead and fire off this email. We can even use our own templating with all of the different fields that we've created. You can see on the left-hand side, we have these different user roles that are available. Again, we can create more user roles if we have other ones that we don't see that are already available. But essentially what this allows us to do is to say, we have a variety of stakeholders that we work with. In this case, we have the admins, and those could be the admins of the people who are actually applying for those grants. And then we have company admins. This would be within our own institution. As we're administrating that information, we want to be able to see all of the data So we'd be company admins, and then we could also have employees, researchers, analysts, different other types of users as well. Now, like we talked about, in Knack, you could have a variety of use cases. So maybe you have students, and maybe you have employees, and maybe you have educators. So you can add any kind of custom user roles, and this allows us to be able to say who has access to what pages in the screens that we're building. We only want certain people to see certain information. We can restrict that based on their user role. So now comes the fun part where we get to actually build the look and the feel of our application and all of the different pages that we want people to be able to interact with. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we'll be able to configure these different pages. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click to go to the live app or to be able to preview this as a given user. In this case right now, I'm logged in as an admin who's applying for these grants. So right now we can see I'm logged in as Milo, and Milo can only see his applications that he's applied for. So you can see these 2 different grants that he's applied for. He can see the projects that he's created, and we can create new projects as well. But Milo doesn't get full access, whereas James, who's a company admin, again, he's an admin at our institution, James can see all of the information on all the applications, even if they're not submitted. He can see all of the different projects going on and see the award detail. He can manage the details of these individual projects, see our current transactions and our disbursements for all of this. So as you can imagine, we can very carefully craft who is able to see what based on their own information as users logged into the application. And then on the back end here, here's where we can govern how we want that page layout to look. So in this case, I'm looking at the project details. This is of an individual project that we have. And we could change those details by clicking here, and we could change which fields are showing, what information we want to display. And we can add multiple different views. So in this case, even though we're on the project, we want to be able to see the relevant transactions for this. So we can configure what does it look like when we click into an individual transaction? Now, adding our own views is what makes Knack so powerful. So we could click to add a view, and you can see we have lots of different options. So we're showing details from our database here. We've got some form information that we can use to create new records. We can display grids of our records. We can do fancier visualizations like display data on a map or on a calendar. And then you can do full-on reporting too. So maybe we want to put in some bar charts and show, hey, let's show all of the disbursements, all of the transactions that we've had for these grants over a given period of time. Now, we can, of course, change the look and feel of the application to make sure that it honors the branding of our organization. So here we can click into settings, go into live app design, and here's where you have a lot of different information about changing the colors for all of our information, how we want this to appear on the page. We can click into our header and page menu here, change our main colors. We can display a logo and use a custom icon or our own custom logo. And it's important to make sure that your custom application in any system can talk to your various other business and education applications that you have. So in this case, we're using a tool called make.com, which allows us to create integrations. And you can see that it's got all of these different integrations already available out of the box with Knack. This works with Zapier and has its own API as well. And then the last thing that I'll mention here is that with the pricing for Knack, you never pay per user. And that's one of the beautiful parts about Knack compared to a lot of the other applications out there where you're paying for every single person who logs into your application. That's not how it works with Knack. Now, there's other things that we have to think about when it comes to the pricing, but mostly it's based on the scalability of our applications and not the number of users. So if you're an educational institution and you have 25,000 students and you have 1,000 faculty or other positions there, that would add up really quickly. And so being able to use Knack where you don't pay that per user per month fee typically is going to save you a lot of money. Start building your own grant management or other education app using the link in the description below.